With the Thargoids gone, the Powers re-established their territories. Colonisation fever took over, and we finally got Squadron Carriers, as well as 4 new flyable ships with revolutionary capabilities. And, following in the footsteps of Terri Tora, we discovered a unique plant that's apparently worth fighting over. This is the Galnet News Digest Review of the Year 3311.
On the 18th of December 3310, the Second Thargoid War ended with a devastating explosion of Titan Koshiho. The caustic remnants of the Titan motherships above planet Earth and 7 other planets in the bubble were all that was left of the Thargoid invasion fleet. In the aftermath, humanity quickly began restoring the stations that had been attacked and damaged during the invasion. After determining that they were not a threat, the Alliance released into society those of its citizens that had been held captive aboard the Thargoid motherships. Federal and Imperial citizens rescued from the Titan remain, even now, in secure medical detention with no indication of a pathway to release. There were other loose ends that were easier to resolve. Vanquished from the bubble, the Thargoids still held HIP 22460, the system where mad scientist Salvation constructed and fired his disastrous Proteus wave death machine in August 3308, precipitating the start of the war. In January, the Anti-Xeno Initiative and the Xeno Strike Force mounted a blockade of the system, driving out the last of the warlike Thargoids from the bubble. The bubble was declared Thargoid-free on the 16th. Free, that is, apart from the much less aggressive Thargoids that can still occasionally be encountered in a few systems, such as Deciat. A memorial to those who fought and died in the war was installed above Earth, as sightseers flocked to visit the now much less caustic wreckage and perhaps collect 1 or 2 of the increasingly rare Titan drive components that are needed to create the best available frameshift drive, the pre-engineered version 1 Supercruise Overcharge FSD.
In May, the Alliance Assembly passed a motion put forward by Chancellor Nikato Kane to end the Alliance's controversial Anti-Xeno Defense Pact with the Sirius Corporation. Kane said she believed that Sirius had been taking advantage of the Alliance's weakness to infiltrate the Alliance Defence Force and to award itself profitable contracts to retrofit Alliance megaships as gun platforms. Prime Minister Mann continues to believe that the pact was good value, and he appears to believe that another Thargoid invasion might come sooner than we think. But what of Salvation, the person who caused the war? He is believed to have died in August 3308 aboard the Bright Sentinel megaship in HIP 22460, and there are even reports of his body being found. But there remain persistent rumours that Salvation, whose real name is Dr. Caleb Wycherley, has somehow cheated death, possibly by transferring his knowledge and consciousness into a computer network. In June, further credibility was lent to this theory by Seojin A, the former Azimuth test subject D2, who decided to leave her role at Aegis to hunt down whatever remains of the genocidal sociopath and exact revenge on behalf of not only the 197 test subjects who died at Salvation's Oaken Point Research Facility, but also the countless billions who died as a result of the Thargoid War. Nothing has been heard of Seojin A since June, but if Salvation survived, he's unlikely to be living out his remaining disembodied days at Skyglow Havens. If we hear again from Salvation, there are sure to be Thargoids.
With the Thargoids banished, the Powers started re-establishing themselves in the systems that had recently been liberated. Princess Aisling Duval proved surprisingly popular in systems such as Barnard's Star and Sol, systems at the heart of the Federation. This was initially thought to have been a result of Ashling's work for the anti-Thargoid agency Aegis, but rumours began circulating that the Princess had been using unfair campaigning techniques. Some on-foot data transfer mechanisms were temporarily disabled while this was investigated, and when these mechanisms were re-enabled a week or so later, Ashling's influence had notably receded in these systems. Other mechanisms found to unduly affect power influence were one-ton trading, an activity that required superhuman levels of boredom tolerance, selling low-value goods, pretending they were imported when in fact they'd been bought locally, and buying hundreds of tons of rare goods for sale in strategic locations. That last one's still permitted, so it's a good idea to keep an eye out for when rare goods are in plentiful supply. But this wasn't going to stop the rise of the People's Princess. Prime Minister Mahan, who began the year as the power with the greatest reach, was soon surpassed by the purveyor of second-hand bathwater. Over the year, Mahan increased his number of controlled systems by 30% from 1,400 to more than 1,800. In the same time, Princess Aisling increased her control to well over 2,200 systems, gaining 850 systems. That's more systems gained than any one of Delane, Torval or Petraeus had in total by the end of 3311. Li Yongri also dramatically increased his sphere of influence from a much smaller starting point, doubling the systems he holds from 724 up to nearly 1,500.
Between April and July, there were a series of set-piece conflicts between powers. It started with Archer and Petraeus squabbling over Chi Eridani. Then Winters and Grom participated in competitive platinum mining for the control of LP 855-34. After the Alliance terminated its defence contract with the Sirius Corporation in May, Mahan and Kane traded competitively, apparently to demonstrate how the Alliance could fend for itself without Sirius. Ironically, it turned out that the cause of each power could be best furthered by delivering commodities to the rival initiative. In June, Delane came into conflict with Orissa, although some accused Orissa of striking first, deep into pirate territory. Finally, in July, Archer and Lee simultaneously attacked Princess Aisling, leading to a short but bitter conflict that everyone claimed to have won. After that, the conflicts came to an end, only starting up again in November after Terri Tora had revealed what the October Consortium was up to in HIP 87621.
By far, the biggest and most far-reaching development of 3311 was Brewer Corporation's Trailblazers initiative. Brewer removed all the complexity of colonising new systems, which previously required direct involvement from the Pilots Federation. Once Trailblazers launched in February, individual commanders could claim uninhabited systems, becoming the system architect, allowing them to build starports and planetary ports, outposts, hubs, settlements and installations, placing bases just where they want them, shaping the system economy and naming the facilities. On Trailblazers Day, 26th of February, there was a mad rush to claim the best uninhabited systems in the bubble. In the first week, more than 8,000 new systems had been colonised. By the end of the second week, and despite a brief pause in colonisation claims, more than 13,000 systems had been colonised, with a further 13,000 claims being processed.
Some system architects chose to build out their systems. Others built a single outpost in a string of systems as they strove towards some distant system of interest that they felt might benefit from being inhabited. Commander LCU No Fool Like One chose to build starports above the Cinean Rocks in Sinuefi WH-F C0, in locations guaranteed to collide with adjacent moons every few weeks. The Lantern Light starport, built by Commander Lavalane around a neutron star in Lalande 25224, was so deep within the gravitational well of the neutron star, and rotating around the star and on its own axis so violently, that docking proved impossible, and Brewer Corporation had to tow it to safety. There was even a case of a starport being inadvertently built around an outpost. Both the starport and the outpost remained fully operational during the wait until they could be separated. Brewer's Trailblazers Colonisation initiative, supported by a fleet of Trailblazers megaships, was officially in beta for 9 months, as the rules governing economies and the claiming of systems were refined. The fleet of megaships was withdrawn and the system became finalised in November. With many of the new systems completely self-sustaining, it was felt that they no longer required logistical support from Brewer.
Also in November, the Brewer Corporation revived an old starport design, the dodecahedral Dodex stations, the only colonisation station to host a human tech broker. These stations are currently available only in early access, but with an added bonus. If you buy the right to build Dodex starports, Brewer will deliver all the commodities to build your first Dodex starport free of additional charge. This arrangement caused some consternation when it was announced, but of course all commanders are free to use any of the technology brokers and systems throughout colonised space, so perhaps it's not such a big deal. Also causing some controversy on aesthetic and scientific grounds are the 5 or 10 trusses that Dodex starports may sport. As they are off the equator of the rotating port, these porcupine-like spines are subject to enormous lateral pressures and also constitute a hazard to shipping near the port. The human bubble is now roughly 4 times the size it was 12 months ago, with colonised systems in Guardian and Thargoid space, in the California Nebula and the Coal Sack. The human population of the galaxy must have more than doubled in the last 10 months, which presumably means an awful lot of twins must have been born. The outward expansion of the bubble, especially to nebulas and other points of interest, shows little sign of slowing down.
In August, we finally got Squadron Carriers. These had originally been planned 6 years ago in 3306, until the Brewer Corporation decided it would be much better if every commander had the opportunity to have their own personal fleet carrier. Now that everyone does have their own personal fleet carrier, the point of now also having Squadron Carriers is less clear-cut, although it does give an opportunity for squadron members to give and receive credits, commodities, personal assets, and even unengineered spaceships, as long as they're not rank-locked, using the Squadron Bank. Squadron leaders also get to demonstrate their inability to choose a Pythian incisive motto, create a beautiful squadron decal, or choose squadron perks that are actually useful. And they also get to squabble with the other officers over where to send the squadron carrier next. It's unclear who had been asking for squadron carriers. Thankfully, though, and by contrast, Zorg and Peterson had something up their sleeve that everyone wanted: the Panther Clipper.
The Panther Clipper Mark II had been talked about for years. Zorgon unofficially admitted to having designed the historic bulk hauler 10 years ago, but unsure of the need for another large cargo vessel, they'd put the designs to one side. Brewer Corporation's Trailblazers initiative and its need for vast amounts of commodities to be transported to construction sites finally provided a justification for dusting down those old designs, adding a bit of sparkle and a Super Cruise overcharge capable frameshift drive, and in July launching the galaxy's largest ever flyable ship, capable of hauling more than 1,200 tons of goods, thanks to its size 7 and size 8 Mark II cargo racks that are bigger on the inside. The ship was an instant hit, with system architects and career haulers alike. After the Panther Clipper became generally available at the end of October, the Lakon Type 9 Heavy became as obsolete as the Type 7 Transporter, flown only by vintage transport enthusiasts and cranks.
The Panther Clipper was the second of 4 ships released during 3311. Before it, in April, came the Gutamaya Corsair, a ship with distinctive styling and a set of mixed reviews. Faster than a Python, but with significantly more optional internals, the Corsair does the opposite of the Python Mark II, which is a stripped-down combat version of the original Python. Fitted with massive size 7 thrusters and 3 large and 3 medium hardpoints, the Corsair is capable of transporting 300 tons of cargo, more than the Python or the Imperial Clipper. While it's not as fast or agile as the Clipper, it's better in most other ways, and it fits on a medium landing pad too. The Corsair is not as well appreciated as it might be. It's considered to be the least remarkable ship of 3311.
Following the Panther Clipper in July, the next ship was the Lakon Type 11 Prospector, the first ever dedicated mining ship. With an offset cockpit and a massive mining volley repeater, the Prospector can strip asteroids far faster than any other ship. Coupled with a Mark II mining multi-limpet controller, which offers more and faster collector limpets than any other available option, the Prospector makes mining both fun and highly profitable. At the end of 3311, the Type 11 Prospector is approaching the end of its early access period and should soon be made generally available for credits.
The final ship of 3311 was the second groundbreaking exploration vessel from Zorgen Peterson, following on from the success of the Mandalay, which was launched in October last year. The large Caspian Explorer does not attempt to compete with the Mandalay for raw jump range, but it instead offers 3 unique modules and a profile that reminds many commanders of classic deep space exploration vessels of the past. The Caspian's most important innovation is the Mark II supercharge-optimised frameshift drive. This drive, coupled with some engineering, allows exceptional results from neutron star supercharging. It's not hard to get an FSD neutron supercharged Caspian to jump 500 light-years in a single bound. Given the Caspian's remarkable fuel efficiency, if you use a route plotter such as Spanch, it's possible to get from the Bubble to Colonia in less than 2 hours without any advanced preparation. The Caspian offers fast travel to anyone that can afford it.
The other 2 specialisms of the Caspian Explorer are designed to make getting down to planets and moving around near the surface much easier. The Mark II ablative armour uses techniques first developed by NASA in the 20th century to allow planetary approach angles of up to 75 degrees. That's just 15 degrees from vertical, pretty much dropping like a stone from orbit, faster and steeper than any other ship. And the Mark II gravity-optimised thrusters allow easy manoeuvring close to the surface of even high-gravity worlds. For those that like to explore environments without risking their vessel, the Caspian supports ship-launched fighters, which can be used as drone cameras to get close to potentially dangerous stellar phenomena. With 3 of 3311's new ships outstanding successors in the field of cargo hauling, mining and exploration, it's hard to imagine what groundbreaking innovations any of the galaxy's shipyards could come up with next.
Despite the set-piece battles between April and July, the powers have been finding it pretty easy to get along with each other. At least partly because colonisation means that the bubble has expanded enormously, and there are more than enough systems to expand into without the need for conflict. That, however, was about to change in one extremely small part of the galaxy. It started on the 1st of September. Exobiology Professor Frank Radix contacted commanders asking for help in finding his missing student, Terri Tora. Tora had gone missing while investigating the October Consortium and what secrets they might be concealing in the permit-locked HIP 87621 system. Long-range scans suggested there might be unusual forms of life in the system, but the October Consortium was not willing to talk about what it had discovered. It wasn't until the 6th of November that the Consortium agreed reluctantly that permits would be granted to all members of the Pilots' Federation the following week. By this time the 12 powers had started getting interested in what resources might become available in HIP 87621. 12 minor factions, secretly working on behalf of the powers, established substantial colonies in the 49 systems surrounding the permit lock, with the powers prepared to step in if anything exploitable might be discovered. On the 13th of November the permit lock was granted, and commanders flooded in to HIP 87621. They discovered a strange, new, almost totally silent, blue woody tree known as Radicoida unica, possibly because of its unique roots. Making the best of a bad job, the October Consortium asked for help cataloguing the new plant, and paid those that helped handsomely, with some participants being awarded a fully engineered Artemis suit.
With speculation that the Radicoida might have specialist pharmaceutical applications, it wasn't long before the conflict began. Without any specifics about what benefits Radicoida unica might bring, on 27th of November the powers moved in and started fighting each other for control of the supply. Initially working together as superpowers, after a couple of weeks, even that level of cooperation broke down. By the 11th of December, it was every power for itself. While some powers, notably Aisling Duval, Pranav Antal and Arissa Lavinia Duval, prospered, some could not keep pace. First Zemina Torval, then Jerome Archer, Felicia Winters and Lee Yong-ri were eliminated, leaving 8 powers in contention. It is not entirely clear what they are fighting for, but there has been talk of a uniquely pre-engineered module that will go exclusively to the last remaining power once all the others have been eliminated from the Enclave. With 5 of the remaining powers possessing strongholds, the Radicoida War seems likely to continue for some months, and by then we may have many more ways of waging war.
As we come to the end of 3311, it's natural to look forward to what 3312 might bring. With the coming of operations, probably in February, we can expect to see a significant tightening up of the link between on-foot and in-cockpit activities. Missions are more likely to require a combination of activities, and we may for the first time be able to battle our way on foot through the decks of enemy megaships.
Learning how to upgrade Maverick and Dominator suits and how to apply engineered modifications is likely to become much more relevant to commanders, many of whom have hardly ever left their cockpits since it became an option 5.5 years ago. The engineering process is excitingly quite a lot different from the way ships are engineered, and there are a whole set of new goods, assets and data to learn about.
Also coming next year is the Distant Worlds 3 expedition, a mass participation event for people who like being on their own, and a successor to the largest expedition ever, Distant Worlds 2 of 3305. It will all be terribly exciting if FSSing systems is your idea of fun, and there will be campsites and organised events for those who crave a little company after all.
Will there be new ships to fly in 3312? What niches remain in the lineup for those new ships? What new modules will there be to revolutionise our lives?
Will we find out what happened to Sojin A and Salvation? Will we discover anything new about the Guardians? Is Prime Minister Mann right about the return of the Thargoids? And if they do come back, what additional tactics and techniques will they have developed?
12 years after Sirius released the modern frameshift drive, the galaxy is changing faster than ever. Be sure to stay tuned as we continue to bring you the latest news as it happens.